regulatory framework enhancements for blockchain projects.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, for the time that you've given this morning. It's funny because the last time we were together, we were at the Open Open Finance Council of the BSB under a different group, right? So this morning, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe Ida, just give a quick background.
Okay. Ida Saniza Tiongson. I'm basically a blockchain, fintech, and governance advocate. Been in the banking industry prior to entering this world for 22 years. National Australia Bank to Philippine National Bank. I'm currently the president of a multi-billion investment company called Opal SPV, where we turn around distressed assets. At the same time, I actually sit in 3 publicly listed companies. I sit as a board member, and I am in several associations such as Women Biz, Institute of Corporate Directors, Management Association of the Philippines as chair of governance, and at the same time, Blockchain Fintech Alliance, where we're together on, and of course, Blockchain Council of the Philippines. Blockchain, I just want to say, by design, is actually governance as well.
Excellent. How about you?
Okay. Hi,
Attorney
Ton.
Mark.
Good morning. We're here
Good
again.
morning.
So yeah, I'm Mark Gorriceta. I'm unfortunately or fortunately, I'm a lawyer by profession. We have a law firm called Gorriceta, Africa, Cauton, and Saavedra. While we are a full-service firm, as you know, Ton, you're one of my favorite clients and friend. We do a lot of tech or fintech work in the Philippines, right? As mentioned by Ida, well, Ida and I, we've been working together for so many years, either in the academe or as resource person by by various government institutions, including the central bank in drafting regulations. So I'm also part of several tech-related associations or organizations, especially the Blockchain Council of the Philippines, FinTech Philippines Association, FinTech Alliance, also, of course, Go Digital, which is under the Private Sector Advisory Council of the Philippines. So yeah, thanks, Tom.
Sounds good. So I think so we have governance and we have legal. But I think there's one person missing in the group. Someone from gaming. So can I call Mr. Noel Samson on stage to join us to represent the gaming industry?
Let's go, Noel. It's just
If
the
he's
four of
not
us
here by 12 noon, we can move on.
And the FAB, no?
Yeah, he's the guy representing the
Right.
Freeport area of Bataan as well, and some economic zones. And this group is the blockchain part of the Blockchain Council of the Philippines. Noel, why don't you introduce yourself?
I don't have mic.
Hi, hello everyone. Emmanuel, Samson with Blockchain Council. Also been in gaming, to show my age now, but since 1998, 99. Originally from Vancouver, came here, started working with Padcore around 2002, 2003. So welcome everybody.
All right, thank you, Noel, for joining us. I know it's unexpected, so I'll throw the last question at you. But let me start with the gentleman on my left side, Attorney Mark. You've been in the space for more than 10 years. We've been doing this. I've known you since then. Fintech, now blockchain, and I want to hear your thoughts about the government and the regulatory landscape view of the blockchain technology.
Sure, thanks, Ton. So yeah, I guess that's my role, no? Legal and regulatory, especially for this panel. But as you all know, in the Philippines, there are no laws and there are no laws or regulations pertaining specifically for the use of blockchain technology. However, if the use of blockchain technology pertains to or is related to, let's say, financial services, offering of financial services and financial products, then we have robust regulations from our central bank, Philippine Central Bank. And if it pertains to offering of distributing, selling of securities, specifically security tokens that are obviously backed up by blockchain technology, then we have regulations. This is regulated by our Securities and Exchange Commission. As everyone would know, since 2017, correct me if I'm wrong, Ida, our central bank is one of the only few central banks in the world that has issued or has regulated this the exchange of crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto and vice versa. Now with custodianship functions and the like. So this is what you call the virtual asset service provider license from the central bank. Also, with respect to the SEC, I think our chair Donald mentioned earlier, the SEC is coming up with regulations pertaining to issuance of tokens or even regulating maybe platforms or exchanges that would want to offer these digital assets as an investment. So they are coming up with this digital asset security service provider regulations that should come out this year, hopefully. But yeah, basically what I want to say also, while our regulators are open, of course, in accepting this technology, of course, at the same vein, they won't also wait to impose or have a heavy hand on enforcing strictly regulations on bad or malicious players, so to speak.
That's very interesting, Attorney Mark, and I think I can relate this to my question to Ida. Attorney Mark mentioned several regulators and regulations, and a few coming along the way. In your perspective, Ida, and on the governance side, and in the world of finance, specifically traditional finance, moving into blockchain technology, what do you see is how do you see the adoption is for blockchain?
Okay. As mentioned by Attorney Mark and I, we used to be in the Bangko Sentral or Central Bank of the Philippines Open Finance Transition Group. And we've done a governance framework there. And may I say that we reviewed 15 different regions, 15 bilaterals.
For 2 years.
For 2 years. We're practically PhD when it comes to open finance. And the major component of open finance is really putting a trust in the system. Now, putting a trust in the system, I want to give a good example. So why is Australia and why is Korea, and for that matter, India, the three advanced countries that are into open finance, why are they ahead? And let me pause on that for the moment and see I think a lot of the people have been victimized when it comes to identification. When identification, Facebook, someone copying you, IG and what have you. What is predicted in the future that even social media will have verifiable credentials. They have to be checked. But let's go back to the basics. People can even fake IDs. So in the case of India, which is the one that we're looking very closely, we would want the IDs also verified. And what's the best system to do that if not through blockchain? In India, with 1.3 billion population, under the open finance regime, they reduced fraud by 75%. And we learned this when we were studying the open finance. So back to your question, is Philippines going to study this further? I'm happy to say was it yesterday only? So the DIC, a couple of days ago, so DICT already said, as mentioned by Dr. Donald, that they are already looking into blockchain adoption and they're piloting that. So I interviewed DICT and I asked, well, what about verifiable credentials? Guess what? It's on top of the list. So I also asked BSP, what's the openness in terms of accepting it? See, sometimes regulators, they get confused. On the left side, we know what's happening to the crypto world, where there's a lot of scams and sorry to say this, but we all know what has happened to CZ. But CZ, if you actually notice, he's very much into governance in the last couple of years. and he wants to. In fact, he's talking about eKYC. He's talking about verified credentials, that sort of thing. See, eventually, the easy ones, i.e., the crypto space, or should I say, security token, people see that as comparative to the Philippine Stock Exchange or the stock market. The stock market's too difficult, the crypto world's too easy. One of these days that will actually balance, and there would be more governance there. And as I said, blockchain is really embedded governance. So let me divide that. One is the crypto side, improving in governance. The other one is really the technology itself. Let's not confuse, because the technology is proven, and happy to say that our local government is practically embracing it, but embracing it with a mindset that they still need to be careful to ensure that the technology does work.
Thanks, thanks, Ida. So you mentioned KYC. Attorney Mark gave a good example of regulators. Now, I want to mix these two together when it comes to gaming. And a good example of this is our Freeport areas, right? So, Noel, I understand you're part of a company who does a lot of work with Freeport authorities. And you've also been into gaming. Can you briefly give a glimpse on the potential of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology specifically in enhancing payment solutions for gaming as well in the region and globally?
Well, firstly, in the Philippines, economic zones are also known for incentivizing different operators that want to participate within a legally backed ecosystem. For example, in Bataan, there's the AFAB, Freeport area Bataan, and then there's CESA, APECO, and such, right? Now, PAGCOR is for local gaming, and these economic zones that I'm referring to are really targeted for offshore gaming. And for companies that are wanting to be domiciled in the Philippines, similarly to what they have in Estonia, Labuan, Isle of Man, of course, Gibraltar. These are other alternative economic zones. Now, specifically for the Philippines, as it relates to these economic zones, they've been at the forefront. In fact, CESA introduced one of the first online casino platforms for, I guess, for legally backed ecosystem, which is back in 2004, 2005. And other economic zones followed, primarily to give that semblance of organization when it comes to any type of legal frameworks. However, not everything can be covered within economic zones. Of course, PAGCOR is taking care of the regulation, if you will, locally. Blockchain plays an integral role, and cryptocurrency as a form of payment also plays in parallel to that. Blockchain gives, of course, for verification. In so far as gaming, provable fairness is really one of the main benefits of blockchain gaming. Specifically for the operator, they know now that once people are paying through crypto, it's easier to follow the trail, if you will. On the player side, through blockchain, through what they call, again, provable fairness, they can also check with the different operators when their bets are being played or when their wagers are being put. And as Ms. Ida alluded to earlier, it's got embedded regulation in, I guess, the most simplest terms, because once you blockchain, quote unquote, blockchain enable different games, right? You're putting it out there on chain. And that's a way to keep the security better. Of course, you make it hack-free, if you will, if it's on the blockchain, because once it's on the blockchain, right, you can't question the data that's on there.
All right, thanks, Noel. I want to circle back to Attorney Mark, because you mentioned earlier that regulators will not fall short of enforcing current regulations in accordance to, and also with the limit of course, risk-based assessment and innovation. Now, we also know that the BSP and SEC would have their own sandbox. Would you recommend blockchain players, also in the context of gaming, companies who want to get into payments, licensed gaming, to get into a sandbox environment for testing?
Sure. Good question. I guess I'll step back a bit, no. So for context for our audience, especially the televiewers, for as it would with respect to the Philippines, fortunately, as mentioned by Ton, we have regulatory sandboxes. So first answer is, of course, as a lawyer, it depends. It depends what you are offering, whether or not it's backed up by blockchain technology. So if you are offering a financial product or service, then probably best to approach check BSP. If it's not covered, you have to understand sandbox framework would be useful if there are no existing rules and regulations. Thus, you go through the sandbox. So if it's a financial product or service that you want to offer, go to the central bank. If you want to offer a digital asset that is like a form of a security or investment, go to the SEC. If it's an insurance product or guys is an insurance product backed up by blockchain technology, then you may use the sandbox regulatory framework by no less than our insurance commission. So, but I guess so it depends, no? It could even be a mixed on. But I guess also really need to strategize because maybe you don't even need to get a sandbox license from any of the three, especially if the regulators would say it does not fall under their jurisdiction, right? And probably one of the best case scenarios would be to get this so-called LONO or letter of no objection from any of the three, the SEC, central bank, or the insurance commission with respect to the use of that technology. Of course, let's go further. With respect to online gaming, generally there's no regulation there is no requirement to get a secondary license pertaining to the use of blockchain technology in online gaming. Of course, if now you infuse there or you dabble into gambling, right? Then maybe, as simply put by Noel, if it's domestic, no, Noel, or inshore or onshore, then probably this would fall under the regulations of our PAGCOR. Then if it's offshore, generally, then you may need to go to a FAB or CESA. So is there a need for the next question there now would be, is there a need for PAGCOR to come out with their with a sandbox regulation? So probably it depends, right? It really depends because as of now, PAGCOR has this, I'm trying to read it, regulatory framework for the accreditation of gaming systems service providers. Electronic games, electronic bingo, sports betting, and specialty games. So you can actually get a license for that certification for specialty games. But again, if it's specific to blockchain technology, then we can always approach PAGCOR and probably suggest that they can probably develop regulations specific to the use of blockchain respect to gaming.
That's excellent. Maybe anything you want to add, Noel?
Well, yeah, just to add to that, what Attorney Mark was saying was, so for PAGCOR, they also divide it into two different ways. One is on the operations of the games itself, skill-based games, sports games, and they also have the operations, which is they introduced recently the IGL, which is the interactive gaming license, which is specifically for the operators that are actually accepting wagers and accepting different bets on different types of games. So that's also one way of them regulating it. Blockchain just gives that extra layer for security, of course, and also, again, what I mentioned earlier, for provable fairness, to make sure that the wagers that they placed are actually what they're getting back insofar as the payouts itself.
Okay. So I want to ask Ida. This one, you've been interacting a lot with BSP. So is Attorney Mark. So you've in the associations you're part of, BSP and SEC as a focal point of interaction. How do you think is the current regulatory mindset or their current paradigm or way of thinking about all of this, gaming, blockchain, cryptocurrency?
I want to rephrase the question in terms of what's happening out there in the world. what's happening out there in the world. As we know, STT, STF, Signature Bank, it has been problematic. Statistics-wise, they're saying 85 to 90% of the assets, so digital assets or ICOs or coins or tokens, whatever you call it, in the exchange, not necessarily Binance. Binance is a little bit more secured, but the other exchanges, unfortunately, are not that secured. When I say not that secured, the drop rate is fairly high. So we have the local government. They're a little bit worried about, in fact, the word crypto. But let me divide that into two as well. Is crypto a coin? Should I say, are the tokens or the ICOs, are there coins or are there shares of companies? I'm actually going to the latter, because if they are shares of corporations, that's not coin. That's not transfer of.
Yeah, it's a security.
Yeah,
so to speak.
exactly. Which is security token. A majority of the tokens are actually security tokens in the first place. So that should be under the wing of the Securities and Exchange Commission, because it's not a currency. Unfortunately, because it is traded as a currency, then the BSP or the central banks of the world are dipping their fingers into it. I think in the future, there would be a division depending on the character of the token. If the character is acting like it's money exchange, then it falls within the jurisdiction of central banks. But if it is like shares of stocks, that it should be under the jurisdiction of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Why that information is important, sometimes the jurisdiction in itself, they're finding it difficult on who is supposed to issue guidelines on that. Now, back to your question, how is the Philippine government taking this? I'm happy to say that the Philippine government is actually quite agile. When I say agile, they may find problem to it, but they're not totally saying no, but you're open to putting it in under sandbox. Your next question could be, well, what happened to Binance? How come they were not allowed? Now, that's another round of a story on its own. It's because it's a timing issue, because of what's happening in Japan, what's happening in the US. So that part of it, because it's being looked at more as a currency of exchange. In the future, it will be absolutely fantastic. We have a lot of distressed companies. It'll be absolutely fantastic that these companies can find funding that they cannot find that in the stock exchange, because you have to be, it's very
Yes.
strict. You have to have all these regulations and follow, and hardly, it's very difficult. It's needle in a haystack to be part of a publicly listed. I, by the way, sit in 3 publicly listed, so I know this. We know this. It's not that easy. But in the future, my wish would be, whether it's a distressed company or a potential good company, they would be able to find funding and be able to do that via the use of digital asset, and i.e. Fundraising. How can you not question the future of Ethereum and Bitcoin when you have Larry Fink of BlackRock, the biggest investment company in the world, invested in it?
Yeah, that's true. Oh, anyone from the SEC here? No one. Okay, so I came from Binance. As you all know, I'm an ex-Binance. And one thing I learned about blockchain and not cryptocurrency is really the use case, right? So Ida mentioned cryptocurrency as a security, as a form of security, but also cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology has a potential to change things, like Noel mentioned, proof of fairness in the gaming side, KYC, providence for NFTs, right? There's a lot of use case for blockchain and cryptocurrency. So I want to tie this up. We have 6 minutes left. So for each of the panelists, I'll give you 2 minutes just to say your last words. And I want you to focus on, again, blockchain has a strong potential to change payments and eKYC for the Philippines. And we seem to got stuck with the use case of cryptocurrency as one use case. What do you think is needed from the business and the regulatory side to push for innovation in the gaming industry, the payments industry, and including e-wallets and blockchain technology? Maybe you can start, Attorney Mark.
Okay. So, right. So I'd like to say that for everyone here, no, since of course you're now in the Philippines, there is actually strong support and openness from our government with respect to use of any technology, blockchain, or anything with respect to innovation. But also take note that equally, there's also strong government action or enforcement with respect to, again, as mentioned, malicious actors and unlawful activities. With respect to the likes of, okay, fine, Binance, what happened there was, of course, the SEC clamped it down because of probably of not only Binance, I'm sorry. For a lot of other players, it is within SEC's mandate to regulate unlawful or unregistered crypto exchanges in the Philippines and unregistered securities or investment, basically. So this is basically in line with their mandate, which is financial or consumer protection, right? So for my last words, Ton, in general, for investors, crypto players, blockchain players, I would always suggest, as simple as it may sound, to come clean or to start with clean hands. Actually, our regulators, believe it or not, they would listen, of course, as long as you are aided with ample, with good advisors. Our regulators would listen to you, and it would actually make a lot of commercial and legal sense to first approach them on what you intend to do in the Philippines. That would save you a lot of money and time. Then from there, they would actually also help you on how to roll out the business, your business. With respect to, let's say, KYC or even payment services with respect to the use of blockchain, that's actually already covered by the operator payment services regulations from our central bank, because that would pertain to either fiat or crypto. So a lot of things here in store for us, and we welcome investors and players here in the Philippines. Thanks.
Thank you, Attorney Mark. Ida, last words?
Yes, I'm going to repeat again, blockchain is governance by design. It does have that accountability, fairness, and because it's in a chain, again, I'll repeat it again, governance by design. But what I want to say further is in the space where you're looking at blockchain and digital asset, I'm gearing away from the word crypto, by the way. I'm going to say digital asset. There are good, there are bad, and there are ugly. If you feel strongly that a certain use case or a certain case is worthwhile pursuing, belonging to the category of good, i.e. above board, good business, and what have you, please come see us, Blockchain Council of the Philippines, because when it comes to lobbying for a certain, lack of a better word, project or arrangement, they would want a known association backing it up. So what we can help you with is, if we feel that is good enough to be endorsed, the association may be able to endorse it and then put it in a sandbox. So it could be sandbox in IC, sandbox in SEC, or sandbox in BSP, depending on what type of project that you're looking into.
Thanks, Ida. And lastly, Noel, please.
Yes. So in any type of technology, excuse me, that needs to be implemented, you're always going to be surrounded by regulation, good governance, and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's about community, right? So you're only as strong as your weakest link. So it really depends how you look at it. And the gaming community always finds a way. Of course, you need to look at and look after the bad actors, right? And you look out for that. Blockchain has a way of doing that because of the verification process. And the communities need to stand strong collectively. And that's one thing I've learned being in gaming for so long, is the gaming community always finds a way. You know, it's one of those things, whether it be the online casino community, whether it be the esports community, but they always find a way to stick together. And we need to make sure that the adaptation of regulation from the finance point of view, regulation from the blockchain technology point of view, has to stick within the community.
Perfect. So this group in itself can spend the whole day talking about blockchain and regulations, but we only have 10 seconds left, and I promise Olga that we will be on time. So with that, please give a round of applause to Noel, Ida, and Mark Gorriceta. Attorney Mark, thank you very much for this panel.
Thanks, Don.